Hello, my name is Justin Shrair. I'm your host today. Welcome to a special edition of Cohasset Comment. I am joined today by Representative Joan Meschino. Representative, thank you so much for joining me on a special edition of Cohasset Comment.
Oh, absolutely. My delight and pleasure.
Absolutely. So first off, before we get into House Bill 130, I'd like to first congratulate you on getting reelected. How do you feel?
Oh, thank you. It was really tremendously exciting to be reelected, and as you know, I had no opponent, and it was a lovely gift, and I'm just so appreciative of all of the support that the district gives me to really be on Beacon Hill and be your advocate and sort of work hard for the district. So it was very exciting to be able to return, and I'm really looking forward to the coming session.
And so you've been serving in the House since 2017. Why did you decide to get into a state position?
Well, you know, it's funny. I don't think I ever planned anything like this. And if you talk to any of my friends, and they tell you very introverted and shy, and so I think I surprised a lot of people. But you know, that's how we were raised, is that you always are engaged in your community, and public service and community service has always been something that's been very important to me. And there was some things going on in Hull, where I live, and I thought to myself, I can step forward and do this. And I was elected to the select board. Loved it. I really wish I had taken better mind of what I thought the job would be. But when I stepped forward, really, it was municipal government and service is fascinating, and the tremendous amount of issues and initiatives and things that are going on in our communities is tremendous. And I enjoyed it completely and thoroughly. So I like to think that my work on the select board in Hull was what transitioned my career towards public policy and running the nonprofit, the Public Interest Law Center. And then, of course, working on the statewide level, I really feel is what brought me back to service at the state level. So I really enjoyed every minute of it.
That's wonderful. And so you represent Cohasset, Hingham, Hull, 3rd Plymouth District. Is that correct?
Correct.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
That's great.
We got redistricted. So as you know, the census happens once every 10 years, and then based on the census, they reconfigure all of the state representative and state senate districts. And so our district did actually change a little bit. And so I had to give up the precinct in North Scituate, but now I have all of Hingham, so it's Hingham, Hull, Cohasset. So I'm sorry to lose North Scituate, but wonderful folks that live over there as well. But the core of the district remains the same, and I'm really looking forward to working with all of my town managers and select boards and my superintendents and school committee members. That's
great. So before we jump into House Bill 130, I just have to ask you, you've been there since 2017. Where do we stand now?
Oh, well, so things are going really well. You know, it's been fascinating, you know, just the ebb and the flow of how state government works and the budget cycles and what have you. But honestly, things are good. Things are solid. We have emerged from the pandemic with a very stable and robust economy, and so you're seeing the state both put a lot of money into things like stabilization funds and really looking ahead towards you know, economic retractions and things like that, but also investing in our both our infrastructure, which is hugely important, as well as our social services, our safety net services. So it's actually been really gratifying to work with the House of Representatives and obviously our Senate colleagues to really build these budgets that uplift people and uplift our economy, in particular our Main Street economies, which is sort of the bread and butter of places like, you know, Cohasset and Hingham and Hull. So it's actually been really very interesting, and you know, you've all heard me say this before, but an ongoing commitment to the things that our district need, and those state revenues and investments, and things like our public schools and Chapter 70 and Chapter 90 and our roadways and stuff like that. So yeah, so things continue to be good, and I think that the House of Representatives is looking ahead with, you know, with a cautious eye. You know, as anyone understands, you know, the economies grow, they retract, they go, and we want to make sure that we're taking care of business now, but looking to the future. So yeah, it's been very exciting.
What are some issues that are really close to your heart that you want to work on?
Well, so the number one issue that I work on is climate change. As everyone knows, that is probably the single biggest issue facing our district and the state and the nation and the world. And so in this past session, we were able to get passed a transformative bill. It's the 2050 roadmap that I had filed, and with that came forward the Next Generation Climate Bill, and that is the commitment to net zero by 2050, all of the carbon emission reduction work that we're doing now. And following up on that almost immediately, we were able to pass both the wind and the next climate change bill at the end of session, which was pretty exciting. So we have made the commitments to emission reduction to tackle climate change, and we have started to make those investments, those long-term investments in renewable energy. That's all the offshore wind. But now what we're doing is starting to tackle some of the other sectors, not just power generation, but things, the other places where we have big emissions. So transportation, individual vehicles. And so there was, we got one of our bills that had to do with infrastructure for renewable, infrastructure for charging stations and point-of-sale rebates for electric vehicles, and really helping to build consumer confidence in buying electric vehicles and making that choice, but also just helping regular people be able to afford it and those kinds of things. This session will be really pushing forward on the deep retrofits of how we heat homes.
Okay.
So we're tackling, we already have started to tackle some of the new building regulations with the next sort of stretch code around energy, which is very exciting, and that should come out soon. But we also have to start to think about the strategies to help just regular folks have more efficient homes, how we heat our homes and things like that. So green banks, stuff like that. So it's very interesting, very exciting, and hugely important. We're all coastal communities. We get those highly intense, frequent storms. There's a reason why the news services are down here during the winter storms. So we've done a lot on the resilience. We've done a lot on the adaptation, and we now we have, I think, an obligation to work on the mitigation. So
great.
Yeah, it's cool stuff.
Wonderful. Let's jump into House Bill 130.
Yes, equally important.
Absolutely. So talk to us first off a little bit about it. It's got 61 other sponsors on the bill, 54 Democrats, 8 Republicans. So talk to me first off a little bit about that.
So the bill itself, House 130, is very simple but yet complex. What it really is it's meant to include streaming services into our cable franchise laws, which is to say that in the same way that our cable franchises pay into important services like our public access television, like 143 TV, for the public programming, we're saying that as people cut the cord and shift to new forms of media, how they get their entertainment programming, all we're saying is that as they shift, we should keep pace with that, and we should also be gleaning fees from not just people who have cable, but from people who also use the digital streaming services. So we're updating a pre-existing law that has worked tremendously well and has provided a lot of money for the infrastructure, right, for this beautiful studio, and for all of the staffing like yourself, and all of the fantastic programming that you do. I don't think anybody who's watching today understands how vitally important our local programming is. I mean, it's the trusted source of information during the public health and the pandemic. You know, generally for government and transparency and accountability, to be able to watch your select board meetings and your school committee, but also for all of the content, right? All of the fantastic programming that you do that people just enjoy, for all of the culture and the history and the music and the arts. So it's very much a worthy goal to create sustainable funding for services like yours, and that's all the bill does.
What has been the hardest part about this bill?
Well, so it's a first-time file.
Okay.
So we are updating Mass General laws, and as I like to remind everybody, when you're doing this kind of policy work, things have to be timely, which I would argue this is. They have to be relevant. I mean, I can't even think of anything more relevant, especially as we're losing all of our weekly papers and other sources of trusted news media. But it also has to be well vetted, and that's the process we're going through now. This year, the bill got assigned to a new committee, a new joint committee for advanced IT. And we were able to engage with the chair. The House chair really was excited about this, and we spent some time explaining why we were choosing to update the an existing law, the cable franchise laws, because you know, these are all choices you make in terms of how you put forward a solution. And I always feel like the way you ask the question leads you towards what your solution is. And what we were really saying is, how do we support our local PEG channels? How do we support them with sustaining revenues? And that led us to say, well, where are the customers going, right? And that was why we chose the path we chose, was to follow the customers, to stay engaged and really to update around new technologies, and to stay current. And so she really got that when we were talking with her. But we had to really demonstrate that it was legal, right? There's no preemption, right? This intersects with federal law. We had to show that this was a space that Massachusetts absolutely can take action and can regulate. We had to show that it was a worthy cause, which I think you guys did really well. And we really, I think we had to persuade her that this kind of a change was really thoughtfully done. So we were able to engage with them and really make that case. So the way it works is you have to get your committee, so your bills get filed. And then what happens is they will assign it to committees. This bill, the Senate version, we work with Senator Jason Lewis, his version, the same exact words, everything, got sent to a different committee. The House version got sent to this committee. The Senate version got sent to study, and I think that made the Senate chair sort of question. You know, he was like, why? And sometimes it's as much about how to get people's attention and how to really engage with them and just make space. 7,000 bills got filed last year.
That's right.
You know, and you got to have sharp elbows, and to be really persuasive and to build your coalition. But that's where mass access comes in. So I don't know if all of your viewers know that you participate in a larger statewide organization that really helps to advocate for you guys. And they were the ones that brought the issue to us. They were the ones that brought the bill to us. And we've been working with them really closely. And all of your sister centers have been doing a great job in terms of advocating for it. So the bill itself got a hearing, really got a lot of thoughtful dialogue. At the end of the day, as we were coming down towards the end of formal session, we just ran out of time. And we thought we had created a space for it to come forward, but the Senate chair had he had questions. He had more questions. And so I probably could have, I know I could have used the rules to move it forward, but I just didn't want a negative vote on it, knowing that it probably wouldn't make it, if it got past the floor, we voted for it, it probably wouldn't have had time to make it on the Senate side as well. So what I chose was to let the bill go to study, which is just a polite try again next year.
Okay.
And we're scheduled to have some time with the senator to really, now that it's quiet, before the session begins in earnest again next January, to have a conversation and really work with him to help him understand and engage in the same way that the House chair did. So yeah, so we'll continue to work on it, and we'll refile it next session, and fingers crossed we'll find a path to the floor for it. For a vote.
And so you've got 43% of the Democrats jumped on this bill. You got 8 Republicans, about 29%. Was it hard getting some bipartisan effort, or,
oh, no.
or was it easy to get others from the other side to jump on with you?
No, not at all. As a matter of fact, when we file the bill this session, we're going to co-file it with Representative Matt Muratori, who's a Republican out of Plymouth. This bill enjoyed both bipartisan support, which I always personally think is very important to vet things by the other party ahead of time, and to make sure it's part of the dialogue, it's part of building relationships, it's part of building the consensus to really uplift a bill, this one or any other for that matter. So yes, we were very lucky to have bipartisan support and to have a great partner in Representative Muratori. We also have both House and Senate support as well, and that's equally important. We have a wonderful partner, Senator Jason Lewis, who's very esteemed and respected on the Senate side. So he's a great partner to have over there, because I can move it to the floor on the House and get that vote, but he's the one that's going to have to do that. A senator has to pick it up. And of course, Senator O'Connor is also very supportive. So we have both bipartisan support on the House side and bipartisan support on the Senate side. The co-sponsorship, it really doesn't mean what everyone thinks it means. So it's just a way of saying, I'm interested in this bill, I support this bill, and I'm willing to help you with this bill. Personally, I never co-sponsor much of anything. I just don't. So I want people, when they see my name on something, I want them to say, wow, she's all in. So I just don't co-sponsor much of anything. But I sure appreciated the people that were co-sponsoring this, and it's just like a quick way of showing who's interested and who's engaging on it. And it's a nice way of staying in touch with a group of people who you can count on to help move it forward and things like that. But the work really happens in the committee, and having that dialogue and making sure that they understand it, and building the support of the chair so that you can move it forward with leadership. That's really where the work comes in. And I have to say, Mass Access has been such a tremendous thought partner, and the way that they rally the troops to come in. They did great presentations at the committee hearings. They've been just a strong partner, really, working throughout to make sure that all the members are educated. They all understand when things are happening. They all have the information they need to do to really help it. And I think that's why we got so much engagement on its first run out. So, obviously the bill went to study.
Yes.
And so what happens now is...
That was going to be my next question, is what should people be out on the lookout for? What's next?
Yeah, so what's next is we are going to refile the bill pretty much in exact same format. Nothing will really change, except maybe the title needs to be shorter. You guys need to help me with that. I'm the least creative person, so...
it is a mouthful.
It's a mouthful. So I need you guys to help me think of a new title before January. Something that really speaks to the value of it as opposed to describe what it does. But anyway, so we're going to refile the bill, and then at that point, what we're going to need is all of the stations like yourselves, all of the media, the community media centers like yourselves, to talk to your boards, to your select boards, to your school committee boards, whoever your big partners are here in your community, and ask them to send a letter in when we have our first hearing. Ask them to make sure they talk to their state representative or their state senator to make sure that that person knows that it's important and that you would like them to take action. And even when it's someone like me who's the bill sponsor, I still want to hear from everybody, because that's the way I turn to the chair and say, you know, I heard from all of these people in my communities. I have 18 select board members, and they're all behind this. You know, it's powerful, right? It's representative government to show up what the consensus is. So yeah, so I'll be looking to you guys for help educating and getting the word out there and showing the true value of why you really do deserve the sustainable funding. And
I know you're a very busy person, so I got 2 more questions for you.
Sure,
and
no
then
problem.
I promise I will let you go. What would you say to the other side? What would you say to folks who are against this bill, who believe that this is unnecessary? What is your pitch to them? What would you say to them?
So everybody agrees that community media centers deserve sustainable funding. In fact, everybody understands that you are truly a partner in municipal government. I mean, who put out all of the virtual meetings? That was you guys, right? So everyone sees the value of the work that you're doing. Everybody understands that. As to the mechanism, the only people that testified against this were people like, you know, I think like Comcast and people who are putting forward the streaming services. And what they're basically, their testimony came down to was, sorry, but you know, we're providing inexpensive services because we don't have to pay taxes. You can't make us, and we're not gonna. And that's really what it came down to. And that's not accurate at all. What that really is they're just looking to make a margin and not to share and invest in the infrastructure that they rely on to reach Massachusetts customers. They have good business because we have good government. It's that basic. We're the ones that make our customers and their consumers available to them. We're the ones that have good economies. That's why they have customers, and they should be paying their fair share to, you know, to acknowledge that, and they should be paying into not a huge amount, a modest amount, a consistent amount, an amount that they've been paying in a very successful model. So, you know, it's just they're making a business argument if we want to make more money. And I'm okay with that. But I do think that part of their cost of business should be in the infrastructure that we're paying for and supporting. So that's really the argument, is who should pay. And I think it is entirely reasonable and responsible to ask them to contribute a little bit to the wonderful public programming and the truly important services that you provide.
Final thoughts before I let you go.
Well, I honestly, I love this job. I'm having a ball. There are so many amazing things going on in 3rd Plymouth District, in the town of Cohasset, really important infrastructure things, important community things. You know, we're sitting in this wonderful school where just, it is my honor and privilege to serve in this capacity and uplift all of the great work that you do. So I'm just excited to be back and doing it, excited to put forward important things like this. And I would just also remind everybody that as a state representative, we have office hours. Constituent services does remain our top priority. And I'm in someplace in the district every Monday and in Cohasset once a month. And please, if you think you need us or we can help you navigate state government or some of these administrative things, if there's something you think we can help you with, please call the office. Is 617-722-2320, and myself and my staff would be delighted to help. So
wonderful.
Just wish everyone a happy holidays.
Representative Joan Meschino, thank you so much for joining me. It's always a pleasure.
Delighted to be here.
And thank you all for joining us. We will see you all very soon. Have a great day.